I have Josh on the Zoom call with me. I'm going to be talking with him about basically hair systems, his journey with hair systems, but he's also a hair system stylist. So it's really good to get someone's perspective who actually works as a hair system stylist rather than actually being a hair system wearer. Well, he's actually both. So it's going to be a really unique interview. So I'm super excited to have a chat with him. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Tired from busy days at work, but apart from that, I'm all good.
And what part of the country are you from?
Uh, I'm a bit of a mongrel, really. So I was born in Wales, some childhood in Hampshire.
Hmm?
Most of my life lived in Spain, and now I live in the northwest of England.
Wow.
So I'm literally from all over. My accent's a bit weird. It's just yeah, it's a bit of everything.
So you've had quite a journey, at least around Europe, given that you were living in Spain for a period of time as well. Was that due to parents' jobs or was it just personal choice?
My mum moved out there when I was younger, and then I had a few holidays out there, and obviously had preferred it over there. So I had the chance to sort of finish my schooling over there, and spent about 16 years over there. Met my now wife, and now we've moved back to her neck of the woods, which is
Mhm.
sort of northwest Burnley area. You know.
Oh, cool. So in terms of sort of your journey with hair loss and hair systems, I think you said to me via email that you wear a frontal hair system. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's about half a head. So I'd say it
Mhm.
goes to about here.
Right.
To be honest, I could probably do with a full one. I'm going a bit thin on back as well. But I had like the typical McDonald's hairline, ever since I could remember. And I never really thought much of it until one day I shaved my head and realized how bad it was. And then I was so conscious of it. And like loads of my clients, you try and grow the hair over, and every time you hit me with a bit of wind here and there, you know, it's actually really stressful. And then I'm barber by trade. I've been a barber for over 10 years, and I just come in contact with the Hair Repair Club. I don't know if you know about them.
I
And
do, yeah. They've got quite a few locations, haven't they,
yeah,
in the UK?
well, the transformations were amazing, and then I literally went and got mine done, and then did the training and everything with them, and they were great, and I haven't looked back.
So how old were you when you first started actually noticing the hair loss for you?
Well, when I look back at pictures, probably I was 20 years old, but I didn't really see it as an issue until I probably got mid 20s, late 20s, 26, 27,
Hmm.
something like that. Yeah.
And when you got to the point where you were noticing the hair loss and it was becoming quite evident, I'm assuming that probably hair systems weren't your first port of call.
No, I mean, I wasn't thinking to get a transplant or anything. Uh, like I thought, oh, I'll just shave my head, and then my missus, politely told me that maybe my features aren't the best to have a bald head. Um, so then I think she saw them actually. She spotted them on Instagram first, and I was like, oh, there's no way that's real, and scoured them and everything, and they just from what you think a toupee or a wig was to what it is now is completely different. And I think that's why people don't even consider them an option, because they think of like a 70s 80s style wig or toupee that's going to fly off in the wind.
Yeah, 100%. Funnily enough, actually, I had a guy on from America a couple of months ago now, and he got his first hairpiece in the late 1980s. And
Oh
he showed me some pictures of what they were like back then, and it's literally night and day. So he was
yeah,
saying to me that when he went in to get it fitted, they had to effectively weave it to actual natural hairs on the side to basically hold
yeah,
it on because they didn't have things like hair system tapes back then. They didn't have effective hair system glues either. And you'd have to go in every month, I think it was, to basically get it removed and we've cleaned and then reattached again. There was no
yeah.
way you could do it yourself. So it
No,
come the heck. And also another thing, you couldn't have your hair up like this. There was no such thing as
yeah,
bleach knots or anything like that. It was literally you had to have your hair down because it was so obvious that you were
yeah,
wearing something.
yeah. No, they've come so far, and I think, I mean, people aren't aware of them. Like every guy I've fitted a system for, I always say, "How did your friends react?" And stuff. And they said, "Oh, what have you had done? You've done something." But they never assume it's a hair. They never assume that you've just stuck something on your head. They think of everything else,
Yeah.
you know. aside from that, which is kind of good. But
Hmm.
then also I'm trying to make everybody aware of it so it becomes more common, you know,
Yeah,
and more people know about it, and they
no,
can consider it an
100%.
option. One of
100%.
my guys, for example, he's on certain medication, so he can't have a hair transplant.
Oh,
So
really?
then this is a great solution for him, And had he not known about hair systems, then he'd probably just be, super depressed still and just waiting for the next thing.
Yeah. And that's another thing, isn't it? That, when you experience hair loss, for a lot of guys and females as well, it not only does it affect your appearance, it massively affects your self-esteem. It affects the confidence that you have in yourself because effectively you're losing part of who you are.
Yeah, and I think we all have an image of what we think we are or what we remember ourselves are, and that changes over time. And there's certain things you can do to bring it back. And when people aren't aware of it and they get caught in the mirror and they feel a bit rubbish about themselves, they see themselves in pictures and stuff. I mean, I have that with every guy I've done. They just feel $1 million afterwards, and they never go. But when I speak to new customers, I say every time I've done one for somebody, they order a second one. I've never had it where they don't want to carry on with it. I
Mm.
think so many of my guys have gone on holiday with the money they saved for a transplant. Now they've got a hair system, and just now enjoying life.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's kind of like the transformation is literally that. You know, as a hair
Mm.
stylist, you'll know this because you see it all the time. You see it probably every day. It's not like when you get a transplant or when you try minoxidil or finasteride and you hope that that works. It's kind of like your image is completely changed within the space of 1 to 2 hours. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, no, it is. It is extraordinary, and I say to my clients all the time. Everybody always says, "Oh, I want my hair to look like it is now, but this and that." And I always just say, "Forget about that. What do you want? What hair do you want? Don't try and like use what you have now and stuff." I said, "You can pick any style you want. You can look like whatever you want to look like. We can do." And it is a really great thing. And I say there's no downtime to it as well. It's you're in and out. I book my appointments around 3 hours,
Mhm.
so you're in and out in 3 hours, and you've got a whole head of hair, and it's just it's incredible for people.
Yeah. And I remember you saying to me as well that quite a few people, before they come across hair systems, they're like, What is a hair system? I've never even heard of it." And people are completely unfamiliar with this type of hair loss solution.
Yeah, they are. They always say, "Oh, is it a wig?" And I say, "Well, it's a semi-permanent wig, if
Yeah.
you want to look at it like that. If that makes you feel any better." you know,
Yeah, and
I
they're
said,
so
"It's not coming.
realistic
It's not
now.
coming off." Yeah,
Yeah. I have some of my dad's mates actually. That they're like in their 70s and stuff, and their perception of what modern day hair systems are is these sort of dodgy looking rugs in the 1960s and 70s, which weren't subtle at all. They were far too thick. We're probably looking at about 150% density if we're talking
yeah,
sort of hair
yeah,
system um sort of tech. They look really bad. I made a
yeah,
video about 2 years ago where I was looking at, wigs from the 60s and the 70s, and you can spot it a mile off, and the technology
yeah.
now is so much better. It's quite extraordinary.
It really is.
I had a question about your salon. You mentioned you're working out of Burnley, is that correct?
Well, we're in Worley. It's
Uh-huh.
just sort of Ribble Valley, and
Hmm.
we're in a shop called Flying Barber.
Hmm.
We've just moved location. It's a friend of mine. It's his shop. Flying Barber is his, and I've worked with him for the last couple of years as a barber, doing hair systems from home. And as business has just skyrocketed, he's now got another location. We've got an upstairs. That's where we do the hair system, private room and stuff. So now Flying Barber offering hair systems and stuff, and he's going to be learning how to do them. I'm going to be teaching him because it's every time you do one, you get another one.
Yeah.
You get recommendations. Every time I put a Facebook post out, I get 6 or 7 inquiries about it, and it's absolutely phenomenal now that people are actually getting in touch because it took me ages for people to actually trust that this is an actual thing. Like it's an actual viable solution. And now more, I think there's somebody else local to me that are now doing hair systems, which is great. You know,
Yeah, and I suppose a lot of people watching this will be asking, Okay, Josh, so do you just cut them in, or are you able to order them for customers as well? How does it work?
Yeah, so how I do it is I source them, I
Mhm.
provide them, and then I do a measurement and I cut on the date and then I cut it in and stuff, and then they get an aftercare booklet and access. Well, actually, aftercare book they get an aftercare booklet, but I always link them your channel as well. I say just go and watch every video,
That's very
because
kind of you. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
I'm trying to get my guys to do their own maintenance, and they're all too scared to do it. And
It's
we're
terrifying though. It is,
yeah,
especially in the
it
early
is,
days. It's hard.
it is, and I've said to them, once you realise that it doesn't really matter. Like if
Mm.
you get it a little bit off, but they are terrified to do it. So I'm trying to convince some of them. I think some of them now for their summer systems have gone with like hybrid systems, a bit lace and poly around the edge and stuff. So a lot easier to maintain yourself and stuff. Because I said it's so much better. I find I change mine every 10. I clean it off every 10 days, and my guys go 3 or 4 weeks, which is fine. They stay stuck on. But I said it would feel so much better for you to be able to just take it off, have a breather, clean it off, and put it back. It would make your life so much better. There's always like the first fitting as well. There's always like a month. I call it a teething period where people are getting used to it. Like sleep. I tell everybody sleep with a do rag. Do all this protocol, and they got to build these habits. Then over 4 or 5 weeks, once you get them, it's effortless. But
Mm.
the first little bit, and then obviously trying to convince them to take it off themselves, they're
Scary.
just like they're just like no chance. And so
Yeah.
now I'm getting so busy with maintenances plus new people coming in. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I always say to my subscribers is, go to your stylist to, get it cut in because they are the experts. And if you're a new time wearer, I usually say go in at least 1 or 2 times to get maintenance,
Mm,
just so you can get an idea of how it's done and see what the stylist is doing and pick up tips from there. And then, if you want to, you can watch some of the tutorials that I've done because you can just watch those for free
mm,
as many times as you like. Because, when I first started, I remember how terrifying it was. And my stylist lived like 2 hours away. So I couldn't go and see her.
yeah,
I just kind of had to make it up as I went along. And over time, I still make mistakes now. Sometimes I might miss a bit of, tape and there might be a lift or
yeah,
whatever. Or maybe there's a little bit of like baldness at the back that I haven't matched it exactly perfectly. And I've been wearing for like 6 years. So, I
yeah.
think it's really important for, people, new or old wearers, to know that mistakes are normal. It's impossible to be
Well,
perfect
yeah.
every single time.
I always say that there's only trade-offs. There's never like fixes for anything. And once you do it 2 or 3 times, you get confident with it. I mean, one of my guys had to do it himself. I was too busy. He had an emergency. Sadly had a funeral the next day, and it had come loose in his sleep. I think he was on about 3.5 weeks, full tape poly. And he had to go and do it himself. And he came back to me all stressed, had an argument with his wife while he did it and stuff. And he said, "Oh, I think it's shifted back." And I said, "It's perfect. Everything's perfect. You're just worrying too much.
Yeah.
Trying to get something absolutely perfect. I do it with mine. If I put mine on and it's a little bit folded or something, I'm like, nobody's going to see it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's
I think we are our own harshest critics, aren't we? And
mm,
I think for us, the nature of the beast is we are quite naturally perfectionistic because the fact that we even wear hair systems, we're probably quite perfectionistic kind of guys. But
yeah,
there's a level of healthy perfectionism, but it can also become toxic perfectionism if it gets too much, and we're like worrying over the slightest little lift at the back or maybe the smallest amount of ball patch that
yeah.
we missed, sort of thing. And I always say to people, just like try and drop the level of perfectionism because no one's going to notice as much as you.
No, no, of course not. No, nobody even knows what they are.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah, exactly.
nobody's going to
Exactly.
question if it's just it is bizarre when you think about how discreet they are, but once you're wearing one, it is a little bit nerve-wracking. I do get it, but
Mm.
I'm trying to teach them as I'm doing my maintenance with people. I bore them to death explaining how to do it and all that. But I want them to have that freedom of being able to just at a drop of a hat, if they need to, they can sort it out themselves rather than having to book appointments and all that. It's much more cost effective as well.
Yeah, and I suppose it builds confidence in them once they can become more self-sufficient as well. Because if they do have a slight mishap maybe they've got a lift after a week, they'll be like, okay, it's fine, no big sweat, I can fix this myself, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so Josh, I had a question about the base that you're wearing. It looks really good. Is that a lace?
This is Swiss lace, this
Uh-huh.
one. And I did wear the polys, went to a French lace, and now I'm just trying the Swiss lace because I never push my hair back. I always say like that's the worst thing you can do. Don't, just have it covering up a little bit, kind of like you have it where it's exposed but not too exposed. I've literally got this pinned back with a hairband because I'm doing a bit of testing with different tapes. I train a lot in the gym. I do CrossFit, so I get really sweaty. So I'm trying to find out what the best hold is for a lace front. I went through a few glues, and now I'm on the Walker lace front, which so
Oh
far
yeah.
is the best. The glues didn't hold up very well for me at all. Um, but that's what I do. I go through so many systems, just testing different ones and putting them through the paces and stuff, and just sitting in saunas and stuff. I just want to see what the best is because when people ask me questions, I need to be able to tell them. You know.
Yeah, 100%. And with the lace front, that's actually what I'm using as well at the moment. And I
Yeah.
find the hold on it is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. It is. I've got Walker Stronghold at the back, and then the lace front. I actually saw the lace front on one of your videos when you were talking about it because I've seen it before, and I just thought, you know what, I'll give it another go because I never really had the hair pinned back and stuff, and it is good. There's no shine to it. I thought I'd be getting a dirty hairline by now. It's been on a week and nothing. So yeah, it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, you wouldn't know. And it's kind of like that kind of goes back to another point, which I find with a lot of people who are wearing hair systems or thinking about it. They're like, what's the right tape to use or what's the right glue to use? And as we've just been saying, no one tape or glue is perfect for everyone. And that's why there's so
No.
many different options out there.
Yeah, exactly. I've used so many glues. I've used the Walker clear glues. I've used Ghost Bond. I've used all the different Ghost Bonds that you can see on their website. I've used every single one, and they keep
Yeah.
bringing out a new one. And honestly, for majority of people, just the basic white glue is fine for everybody, as long as you're not expecting crazy results. But I always say as well, it depends on your biochemistry. It depends how much you sweat. It depends how hot you get. You know, some people have oilier skin, especially the first system you get, like that's not staying on longer than 2 weeks unless
No.
you're,
Yeah, it's so
yeah,
true.
yeah, unless you're. I've got like this guy that he's just had glue, Ghost Bond XL, basic glue, and since day one, his stays on for like 6 weeks, and I have to really peel it off.
Wow.
I don't know why. I've no idea why. It just for him, it just works brilliant. Others we've had to go through different protocols. I always do glue. Then if that doesn't work too well, we do tape and glue. And to be honest, majority of the time, like a full tape system is the best.
Yeah.
Um, I've found bit annoying to clean up if
Yeah,
it's
it can
like a
take a
thin
while.
poly. Yeah,
It
but
can.
they do tend to be the best. But I always just go through the same protocol with everybody. Yeah, glue, then tape and glue, and this, and then there's so many different glues and tapes out there. I don't even know which the best ones are. I know which the ones I prefer to use, but
Yeah.
there's probably other ones that work better.
There's always new ones coming out as well. I mean, when I first started wearing, there was no such thing as lace front or lace frontal by Walkers. Pretty
Mm,
much all there was Ghost Bond and Ultra Hold, and
yeah,
Walkers used to do a red tape as well. I think they do still do it. But a lot of the ones I use now, like green tape, that didn't exist 6 years ago. Some of the new glues that are out now didn't exist 6 years ago. So it's a constantly ever evolving industry, which is
yeah,
exciting because it opens up possibilities for a lot more people who are considering wearing hair systems. Maybe they don't get on with a specific type of tape or glue. There will be another one out there which is going to work
mm,
for them.
yeah. It's about experimenting, and that's the beauty. If you can do it yourself, you can experiment, and I think it can become like not a hobby, but it can become an interest of someone's, to care for it and do take it off, put it back on, try some different tapes, see what works for them, and rather than just relying on a professional like myself, the skill is in the cutting system in it and cutting the base. The maintenance is really it's not a skill. It's just a like a
It's a bit
it's
of a
just a
hobby
not a
in a
habit.
way. You
Yeah,
know,
it's just once you do it once or twice, you get used to it, and that's it. It's not a super skillful part of the job. you know.
Mhm.
So it's definitely something I think people should do, and have a crack at, because then they can experiment with stuff that works for them as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of your customer base, I mean, how far away do people come to sort of see you? Is it all over the north or?
Well, no, I think generally most of my clients are pretty local. I think one of the farthest ones. Well, I did a guy from Buckinghamshire. But he obviously does his own maintenance. But everybody else is fairly local.
Mhm.
Come from sort of Blackpool area. Then we've got Burnley. It's sort of all round really. But I think as the business grows and stuff, and as people become more aware, I'm getting more and more messages from people that live further afield and stuff. I mean, there's people popping up everywhere doing it, which is great. But people seem to keep messaging me because they like the way I cut it in.
Mm,
They like the before and afters and stuff. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm a barber.
mm,
You get a lot of hairstylists that do the systems. They just, as soon as you ask for sort of a skin fade and stuff, that the technique sort of breaks down a little bit. They get a little bit nervous with the blending in such short hair. I think
mm.
that's why a lot of guys that like them shorter sort of styles like to come to me.
Yeah.
But generally, I think they're all over. I mean, like people will travel.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, if I lived in the sort of Northwest, I'd probably be coming to you because I really like your skin fades. And I remember when I
Yeah,
came across you on TikTok and I was like, I didn't know they were hair systems because the skin fades and the blends were so good. Um,
yeah.
what I would say to anyone watching this video, if you are UK based and you're in the sort of the Northwest or in the Northeast or even in the Midlands, you know, and you don't know if you don't have a local hair system barber or stylist or whatever, you can go and see Josh and his colleague who's going to be training up in time. Josh, have you got an Instagram handle as well, which you'd like to share on the video?
Yeah. You probably have to link it. I can't remember what it is now because I recently changed it. I think it's Josh.hairsystems or something, but I'll send it over to you and maybe you can
Yeah,
link it in the video. But I can't. I changed it like a week ago, and I can't remember what I put it as.
that's okay. What I'll do is I'll link it down in the description box beneath the video, your Instagram handle, your TikTok handle. And are you okay to have your email address put on there, or would you rather just the
Yeah,
Instagram and
email's fine. Yeah, email's absolutely fine. Instagram's the best way to sort of see before and afters and stuff. TikTok's more of like a funny sort of reels thing I do. It's more
Mm.
of that sort of stuff. But yeah, Instagram's got more of the before and afters on.
Sure, sure. So I'll add those to the description box below. And my last question, which I'd like to throw to you, Josh, is if there's someone watching this video who is on the fence about getting a hair system, they've been experiencing hair loss for a while and it's affecting their confidence, their self-esteem, maybe it's affecting their social life or relationships, and they're thinking about getting a hair system, what would you say to them?
I would say one, do your research, which they would have done already. The scariest bit about it is shaving your hair off, which you're losing anyway, and you would have to do if you wanted a transplant. So the absolute worst case scenario is you shave your hair off. So you may as well try a hair system in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. You're
Yeah.
losing it anyway, so you might as well get a full head of hair because you're losing it anyway. So it is going to get shaved. It's going to be
That's the
replaced.
most traumatic bit is when you put clippers over somebody's hair and they've been trying to save it for so many years,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. No, look, thank you so much, Josh, for coming on. And I know so many people are going to find this really, really helpful, not just because you wear a system yourself, but also because you're a hair system barber as well. And you've got a lot of experience and you can help so many people. So, thank you so much for, coming on tonight and sharing your
Thanks
wisdom.
for having me.
No,
Thanks
no
for having me.
problem.